To rush headlong toward the horizon is to enter the way of iron brambles. To walk straight on the path of 1,000 curves is to wear the Tathagata's teaching, and to know in an instant the nature of your life. It cannot be preached, yet words reveal it. It cannot be avoided, yet thinking will push it aside. To close the gap at once is to walk with Buddha. My teisho today is on case 12 of the Blue Cliff record, usually called Tozan's 3 pounds of flax. And I'll begin, as I always do, by reading Master Engo's introduction to the case. The death-dealing blade, the life-giving sword, they were the custom in ancient days, and are still today the touchstone. In death-dealing, not a hair is harmed. In life-giving, the body is denied, and life is neglected. It is said that the 1,000 holy ones have not preached a word on the upward route. Scholars labor at their formulas like monkeys struggling to catch the moon reflected on the waves. But say, if there is no preaching, how is it that there are so many complications, so many koans? If you have an eye to see the following. And the main subject, or main case. A monk asked Tozan, "What is Buddha?" Tozan said, 3 pounds of flax. And finally, Master Setcho's verse on the case. The golden crow swoops, the jade hair bounds. The echo comes back direct and free. Who judges Tozan by his word or phrase is a blind tortoise lost in a lonely vale. Well, of course, this case focuses on Master Tozan. And I need to make clear that this is not the same Tozan who is the co-founder of the Caodong or Soto school of Zen in ancient China. This Tozan lived about a century later. I think his dates are 910 to 990 CE. And Thomas Cleary collected several anecdotes about him, and just to kind of set the tone, I'll read a few of those for you now. A monk asked, "What is the seamless memorial tower?" Tozan said, "A stone lion at the crossroads." A monk asked, "What is the proper business of patch-robed monks?" The master said, "Up in the clouds on Mount Chu, there's certainly a lot of wind and rain." Another monk asked, "What is Buddha?" Tozan said, "Obviously true." So these are kind of fun, I think. You know, when we are engaging koans as a practice, our initial entry into a case is one that requires us to think about it. I say this because I have the impression that people think there's no thinking involved in sitting with koans, but this is just not true. We do have to think about them. We have to think about what the words mean. We have to kind of weigh them. For one thing, we have to determine if there is any metaphorical content in the koan, because there often is, and there is in this particular case, which I'll explain later. And we also have to think about where the hot point of the case is, so to speak. Usually it is in the words that a master offers in response to a question or a comment from someone. And that's true in this case as well. But we can't really afford to ignore other parts of the koan. So when you're sitting with a koan, you have to think about it, you have to weigh all the words, all the key words, all the phrases, see which parts are, have the greatest heat, but not to completely abandon other aspects of the case. Now here we have a monk asking this question, what is Buddha? And this is a question that comes up again and again, I mean probably thousands of times in the Zen literature. And you may wonder, why? Why is this question so important? We have to appreciate that it's really not asking for some kind of simple biographical answer. If there were let's say a Tang or a Song dynasty Wikipedia, somebody who wanted to know what the Buddha is or was could just look it up. But that's not what they're fishing for. When someone asks, what is Buddha? I suppose it doesn't take too much imagination to recognize they're asking something more like, what is the nature of a Buddha? What is the nature of an awakened being? And maybe even a little deeper, what is the kind of insight? What is the kind of wisdom that a Buddha can see or appreciate or recognize? And maybe ultimately the question could be something like, what is the essential nature of reality? But as soon as you say that, it sounds like you're looking for not a biographical answer, but maybe a philosophical one. What is the essential nature of reality? And really, I could probably talk philosophically or conceptually for hours about the essential nature of reality. But that's not what we're about in the Zen tradition. What we're really about is living out of our insight into this intrinsic reality. It's not so easy to do. It takes many years of training to be able to respond, as Tozan does in this case, with a kind of spontaneity born of our insight. And so when somebody asks what is Buddha, there needs to be an immediate kind of response. It happens in the blink of an eye. Tozan says 3 pounds of flax instantly. He doesn't have to think about anything. He doesn't have to reach for something. It's already a part of his life. So what I want you to recognize about this very important question, what is Buddha, is that it's not about simple biographical content. It's not about philosophy, Zen philosophy, Buddhist philosophy. That has nothing to do with it. It's an invitation to manifest your understanding of the Dharma on the spot, in a live way. If you can't do that, then you're kind of missing what we really want to appreciate most, which is the life that we're living right now. Now, we can turn to Tozan's response, 3 pounds of flax. Flax is a very beautiful plant produces a long fiber that gets beaten and hackled into linen. That's how we make linen. And it's been cultivated for many thousands of years by human beings in many different parts of the world, including China. Now, it so happens that this phrase, 3 pounds of flax, was an idiomatic expression at the time that Tozan lived, and it meant a set of monk's robes. So there's a kind of metaphorical quality to what Tozan is saying here. It's almost as if the challenge from the monk, what is Buddha, is being answered by the phrase, a set of monk's robes. Now, initially, that might seem a bit obtuse. But one thing that might give us a little traction in this is that we have something called the verse of the Kesa. The Kesa is the outer robe of the monk, this brown garment that I'm wearing. And we chant the verse of the Kesa when we put this on in the morning. The words to the verse of the Kesa go like this. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, saving all sentient beings. This robe is vast, infinite really. It doesn't stop at the hem. And it's formless, which means it's not really just the cloth. And we say, I wear the Tathagata's teaching. And by the way, Tathagata means the thus come one. And it is an epithet for the Buddha. So I wear the thus come one's teaching. I wear the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha never referred to himself as the Buddha. He referred to himself as the Tathagata, the thus come one. So we wear this teaching. There's a story about how all this came to be. I don't remember all the details anymore, but I'll try to recall the gist of it for you. It happened that there was a Raj, a prince, a king, who lived at the same time as the Buddha, and he greatly admired the Buddha's teaching. But at that time, the Buddha and his Sangha wore robes that were just like the robes of all the other religious communities that existed in India at that time. And so this prince suggested to the Buddha that he create a robe that would make his Sangha visually distinct from all the other groups. And so the Buddha was thinking about this. One day he was sitting on a hill overlooking a rice paddy. And the rice paddy, like many rice paddies, was divided into squares and rectangles, and there were earthen paths that divided the flooded areas. And rice was growing up in the water, and there were people and probably dogs and cats and water buffalo and birds and maybe some fish. And so all this life, plant and animal life, all this activity suggested to the Buddha's mind a metaphor for his teaching, which was the teaching of interdependence. So while things might look separated from one perspective, they are in fact unified from another one. And so seeing this kind of metaphor laid out before him, he turned to his attendant Ananda and said, "Ananda, can you make a robe that looks like that?" And Ananda said, "Yeah, I think I can." And he did. And thus was born the Kesa. And I don't know if you can see it, but this is all like strips of cloth, rectangles that have been stitched together, just like the rectangles of the rice paddy. And so we wear this teaching of interdependence. Now, that's all fine and dandy. I don't know that any teacher giving a talk on this case has ever mentioned that 3 pounds of flax was a metaphor in the early Song dynasty for a set of monk's robes. I just happened to come across it recently. And you don't really need to know that to be able to absorb yourself in this case and to penetrate it, to come to a response that your teacher will accept. But it is a kind of insight that helps us see things with a greater richness. And so this is why I am trying to explain it to you. It's also not the case, and this is maybe a more important point, that you don't have to be a monk to wear the Tathagata's teaching. Anybody can do it. Anybody can wear this vast, infinite teaching. This formless field of benefaction extends everywhere, leaving nothing out. And this is an incredibly lucky thing. And of course, the problem, despite the ubiquity of this teaching, is that we don't quite believe it. There always seems to be some separation between this life as it is right now and the awakened life of a Buddha. The other day I was driving down the highway, and I was going the speed limit and then some. I'm not a speeder, but I was going pretty fast. And yet, car after car after car went whizzing by me at tremendous speed. And as often happens to me when I see all these cars going by so quickly, well beyond the speed limit, I think, what is everyone in such a hurry for? And I don't mean that in a kind of judgmental way, really. I mean, I kind of really want to know, and I kind of sort of have an idea. There is a sense that we have to get to something. There is a feeling that there is something out there that is not here. It's out on the horizon somewhere. And we have to get to it because it's not here. And so we go rushing toward it because what is here is not yet satisfying. And there is some kind of separation between all the bits of whatever this is and all the good bits that are waiting for us down the road. Maybe we get off of work and the next good bit that we want is to be home. It's nice to be home. And so we drive fast. to get home sooner. But I doubt if people entering their homes then just stand transfixed in the living room because they've attained their goal. That was the next good bit they were rushing headlong toward. But now there's something else. And so maybe we go to the refrigerator and the cupboard and we get some cheese and crackers and crack open a beer, because that's the next best thing. And then dinner is the next best thing. And then the next best thing is television. And if you have a partner in the house, you have to debate with them about what you're going to watch. I can't wait till you're done with your show. I would like to rush through your show so that I can watch my show. You know, there's really nothing wrong with any of this. There's nothing wrong with wanting to go home. There's nothing wrong with cheese and crackers. There's nothing wrong with watching TV. Nothing wrong with any of that. Inherently, it's all fine. But the rub is that we feel this gap. The gap between whatever this is and the next good bit, the next best thing. And that gap is uncomfortable. We don't really like it at some unconscious level. It bothers us. And that's what causes us to rush. Now, what can you do about that? How do we close that gap? Do we just continue rushing on from one thing to the next? How do we reduce the separation and come to that life that is centered, confident, calm, there's great value in slowing down and appreciating what this is. Because when you really slow down, and I mean really slow down, then the bits that are here merge with all the other bits all around. And suddenly there is no gap. And then our struggle is eased. It's not so hard to live our lives just as they are. To appreciate what we have. To appreciate our experiences. And there, it's so much easier to feel compassion for other people. Because we're not all caught up in trying to get to the next best thing. This is the robe. This is the teaching. The vast robe of liberation. The formless field of benefaction. Thank you for listening.